Welcome to the channel, welcome to this review video for Forgebane, the new box set from Games Workshop. This goes up on pre-order on the 17th of March and is available to buy on the 24th of March, and I want to thank Games Workshop for sending it through to me. They've been very generous and sent through a number of review copies to bloggers and YouTubers, so we can get this up on the interwebs so you guys can see what's inside of it. But that's essentially what's inside of it, but let's open it up and take a deep dive. So when you first open the box, the first thing that will hit you, a lovely bit of artwork there to stick on your wall, is all the plastic. There is a lot of plastic in this box. We have the new armature Warglaive packs which come on these sprues. That's one armature, and there's his guns and close combat weapon. Here we have another armature Warglaive and the gun, and then we have lots and lots and lots of plastic. Vanguard Rangers, we have Lichguard and more Vanguard Rangers. We have Necron stuff, Lichguard and Praetorians, Lichguard and Praetorians. The new Cryptek set coming in there, more Necron stuff, Wraiths, and Immortals, Necron Immortals. So you have this much stuff which is Necron, this much stuff which is Admech. 1 minute, tell a lie. There's Tech Priest Dominus in there. Don't forget the Tech Priest Dominus goes over there. And then inside you have the bases. You have some rules. These are copy and pasted. These are the handy rules pamphlets that you got from the box set, the Dark Imperium box set, I think it was called. And then the instructions for putting together all your units, and then a pamphlet. That's what's inside the box set. There is a lot of plastic in here. If you want to start off a Necron army, it's got a HQ and some troops and some elites in here. And if you want to start off an Admech army, it's got a HQ and some troops, and then the armature Warglaives in here. It's clearly a way of jumping into the hobby, starting off Necrons or Admech. You've got the full rules, so bear in mind that this is not one of those games like Necromunda or other games such as that, other game systems such as that. This is a full game of Warhammer 40k, using the full 40k rules, including point systems. Well, not really including point systems. There's 3 games in here, 1, 2, 3 that you can play, and it tells you what to bring in. It says in the armies in this particular game, for example, no armature Warglaives. This is a stripped down, very basic game that you play, attack and defend game. This you use everything in the box set, and this one you use everything in the box set. And in the army section, it tells you what to bring for these games. So each game tells you the deployment, tells you what the victory conditions are. This one, for example, is about the Archmagos and the Rangers trying to getting swarmed by the Wraiths, and basically if the Archmagos dies, the Necrons win. The second one, it's who controls the objective in the middle of the table, and the armatures can come on outflanking. And the last one, we have this objective here, and the idea is the Admech tries to get it into their deployment zone. Also in this battle, interestingly enough, Necron units other than the character can be recycled onto the battle grid. Those are the 3 games you play. After that, it looks exactly like the Admech Codex and tells you what canticles of the Omnissiah are, what abilities they have, and the units that you bring in the game. We have Tech Priest Dominus, we have Skitarii Rangers, and we have the armature Warglaives. Those are the 3 units that you can bring for the Admech. And after this little bit of artwork, we have the Necrons Spear, which talks about living metal and reanimation protocols. Interestingly enough, it talks about dynasties as well, and giving your Necron army a dynasty keyword. But at the time when this book gets released, the Necron Codex isn't even out yet. So you get this one, and then the Necron Codex will be coming shortly afterwards, and then you can apply the dynasty keywords to it. And in here we have the Cryptek, we have Immortals, we have Lichguard and Canatep Wraiths. Now, while the units are specific to this game, while it says you bring Rangers and Dominus, these sprues allow you to make different stuff. It's perhaps best demonstrated when you have a look inside the book, which tells you how to stick together your units, because of course a unit of Skitarii Rangers, which are the ones that you use for this game, That sprue will also allow you to stick together some Skitarii Vanguard if you want. So, for example, if you just want to get this box set for the Armature Warglaves and you've already got a ton of Rangers, you want to bring Vanguard instead, you can. You can stick together Vanguards. You won't be able to play this particular game or the missions in here unless you have the models supported elsewhere. But you can build from the sprue different units that are not represented in the missions in this game pack. Tells you how to stick them all together. There's the Armature Warglaive, how to stick that together. Very interesting stuff. There will be a separate video on the Armature Warglaive because I know a couple of people are very interested in it. And then the same for the Necrons, for example. Here's the new Canatet Wraith dude and Cryptek, sorry. And the Immortals, because it comes with a standard Immortal sprue, allows you to put on the Gauss Blasters or the Tesla. But as I said, if you're just interested in getting the models in this box set and not playing the games, instead of these guys, you could make death marks if you wanted to, because that's available on the sprue. And that's how to stick all of those guys together. And again, in this box set, while you use Lichguard to play this game, you can also make up some Treyarch Praetorians if you wanted to, from the sprue. So to be clear, you need to build the models in certain ways if you want to play these games from this book, but you do have some options to build them separately if you don't want to play the games from this book. This game, such as the Threat Revealed, says basically you bring all of the AdMech forces and all of the Necron forces. That's what you do. There's no points values. So for example, the Necron Lichguard, you can make them with the War Scythes, or you can make them with the Hypervase swords and Dispersion shields if you want to. You can make either flavour of Lichguard with either flavour of weapon loadout, because there are no points values in here. Just load them up how you want to play this game. Then when you look at the data sheets, it tells you how to load them up how you want to. These are cut and pasted from the codex. Interestingly, Canatek Wraiths, you've got the Vicious Claws and Whip Claws are both AP -2 now, and I believe it was AP -1 and 0 for those when you loaded up Wraiths that way in the index. So this data sheet is clearly from the new codex that's coming out sometime soon, I guess. And yeah, that's how you load up your models. So it tells you how to load them up how you want to. You're not paying the points cost for them, and it's very interesting that they put the points cost in the back, even though we don't need the points cost for them to play Forgebane. Right, let's have a look at this book in a bit more detail. It is quite narrow. There isn't a lot to read in here. It gives you an introduction to this campaign. It says essentially Forgebane tells the story of a world torn by conflict between the Necrons and the Adeptus Mechanicus. Battle lines are drawn, and it's about to kick off. And then you have a new awakening. It talks about the Necrons waking up, and it talks about the mysterious blackstone substance, which Belisarius Cawl found out during the fall of Cadia, which has the ability to either restrict and affect the powers of chaos in a negative way and really affect chaos and stop it spreading, or it can be manipulated to for the benefit of chaos. And we found that out during the Fall of Cadia campaigns, and we know that Necrons have had an ability for 60 million years or plus to shield themselves from the forces of chaos. And Blackstone clearly is the substance that they've been using to do that, and it talks about that in this bit. It gives you some background on the AdMech, some background on the Necrons if you're entirely new to the Warhammer 40k universe and you want to grab this box set as a way of jumping in. As I said, there's the full rules. If you learn this game, you'll learn how to play 40k. And these rules, for those that don't know, there is 8 pages here. This is it. This is the rules for 40k. You only need that and the data sheets for the units that you're playing with, and dice and a ruler. So you got that. You've got the good old galaxy map as it appears. Talks about night worlds for the Armature Warglaves, talks about quarry worlds, and Cryptek's Faithful of Omnissiah, and then the Death of Worlds Arising. These 2 pages are essentially expanded lore on the AdMech, expanded lore on the Necrons. Then you have the good old-fashioned heavy metal sections that appear in all the codexes. It's essentially laid out very similar to a codex. Once you've got this, then you'll be familiar with the format when you come to play games of 40k using a codex. And if you've got a codex, you'll be very familiar with this type of load out. There's an interesting thing here about atmospheric conditions. Essentially, the 3 games that you play in this book are privy to these special rules here. You roll a dice at the beginning of every game turn, and on a 1, if you've got units that are not entirely in a terrain piece, they'll suffer a mortal wound. On a 2 to 3, you've got dust storms, and the range of all ranged weapons is reduced by 6 inches to a minimum of 12. And that's on a 1 or 2 to 3, and on a 4 plus, the conditions are clear. The storm is abated a little bit. So some special rules to play with these particular games missions. It does also state that the armies, it says use the armies in this book. However, if players are using different armies, then it's up to them to choose sides and armies. So essentially, you could play the game's rules and missions with orcs versus Necrons, for example, or other 2 types of armies. It doesn't even have to be Necrons. It could be Eldar and some Death Watch fighting over this mysterious Blackstone stuff on this battle grid, and you could use these game missions and these rules to fight for this very, very key resource that is obviously going to play a big role in the ongoing narrative in the worlds of Warhammer 40k. So closing out this review, keeping it short and sharp because time is precious, and this is what you get in the box set, and it's a lot of stuff. You get a ton of plastic with some critical units in it, exactly the kind of units that you would want to get if you were starting either a Necron or AdMech army. It's clear that Games Workshop see this game as a way for people to start playing Warhammer 40k because they've put the main rules in here, because this is Warhammer 40k. It's not an expansion like Necromunda, it is Warhammer 40k with a campaign book in it designed to be played around these forces, but as mentioned, you can play them with different armies if you want to. This campaign doesn't use points values so long as you use the 2 armies in the books, but again, as mentioned, if you use, Orcs versus Eldar, you can happily play this whole campaign using 2 separate forces if you wanted to. So this is what you get. Quite a lot of miniatures and a gateway into the worlds of Warhammer 40k. There'll be a separate video talking about the Knight Armigers, because I know Armiger Warglaives, because I know some people are very interested in exactly what they can do. So I want to thank Games Workshop for sending this through to me. I hope this short and sharp review gives you a good idea of what you're getting with this game, with this expansion. Thank you to all my patrons for supporting me, and happy wargaming.